Heading into the news hour to give you the details in regards to what is happening from the world of business and just to keep you updated with the business stories. Let's kickstart off. A group of Ugandan innovators have come up with an app that intends to provide trade and commerce on the market place on which communities and businesses can buy, sell and promote their products. Innovators termed this as the MyLike app, which can be accessed through Google Play Store to all the Android users as well as the App Store from those using the iPhones. The Ugandan e-commerce scene is the fast growing startup that is providing solutions to wholesale and retail traders. Pedison Mumbere has more.
Us Ugandans, for we people who love social media, for the whole world, but much more important, that this is an app that has been designed, built by Ugandans.
Uganda has a low internet penetration and high internet costs, which makes the adoption of e-commerce difficult. However, this has not scared away Ugandan app developers to come up with new innovations. In a hustle to provide trade and commerce marketplace on which communities and businesses can buy, sell and promote their products, a group of Ugandan app developers have come up with MyLike app to strengthen business activities amidst COVID-19 pandemic. They say that this app will promote tourism through enhancing culture and their tourist attraction globally, among others.
This app that we are introducing to the world has been carefully designed to suit the lifestyle and is meant to be as interactive as possible, to create job opportunities for the youth directly through third-party service providers, also by providing a platform for job listings and awareness, such that users are able to easily access various job listings in different sectors of the economy.
All we need from someone to open an account is their username, email, and password. And then you enter the world of MyLike. On MyLike, you'll be able to create posts which you can share with your friends, pages, and communities.
According to the World Bank, Uganda's real GDP growth in 2020 was projected to hover below 2%, compared with almost 5.6% in 2019 due to COVID-19. As part of its response to the pandemic's economic fault, the Ugandan government is at the forefront of promoting e-commerce and digital solutions for faster recovery from the crisis. For instance, it has worked with mobile money operators to reduce fees for digital services and offer complimentary internet data packages to consumers to facilitate cashless transactions.
People in our communities will stay on this app for eternity. Your grandchild, when you are not there anymore, will be able to find it and say, oh, my grandfather did this and this. He lived here. He worked with this one. That is connecting the past communities, the present, and the future communities. So we are working for our future generations and our communities at home who may not become.
Uganda is targeting to use digital platforms to attract millions of tourists. The group say that this app can as well be used to promote tourism internationally.
If you say you love your country, this is a time to use MyLike and tell the world about your country, why you love it, why you think it's so beautiful. This is the time. And you don't stop at the country. You go deep down. From country, you go to the region. From region, you go to the district. From the district, you go to the constituency. Constituency, you go to parish, sub-county. Every community, even a community at work, if you love your work, this is an app that can tell the world how your community at work is so precious to you, so that you make it attractive to people who would wish to come and work in the
Leaders in Uganda have always said that tourism has to trend just like other sectors, trending through online promotion, saying that through digital transformation, Uganda can make quick advertisement and even reach more people cheaply.
All right, the MyLike app is just like any other app that has been developed and most of you are probably using to promote your businesses. But this time around, if you look at it, it is giving room for the Ugandan traders. Here, you're boosting your trade, things that are being made in Uganda, using a Ugandan app and promoting Ugandan products. So it is all Ugandan here. We're looking at prioritizing our things and prioritizing from all the sectors in the economy. That means if we promote our own things, our own innovations, it's actually going to be helping us in return. Uganda has a low internet penetration and high internet costs. That's probably because of the taxes that come through, which makes the adoption of e-commerce difficult. However, this has not scared away Ugandan app developers to come up with new innovations. We have a number of apps that are coming up, a number that have already been developed. And everyone here in Uganda, even if you look at this businessman, Amish Chigudu, also has a number of apps, which shows you how even the bigger investors are tapping into the operation or the use of apps. We've seen innovations coming through from different online platforms as well. Look at the Chikubu, look at the Chikus, you look at all those. Those are aligned for the traders in that is for the trader community, mainly those in Chikubu, and giving an enrich to the people who normally travel to Chikubu or go downtown to actually get some of these products. In hustle to provide trade and commerce marketplace on which communities and businesses can buy, sell and promote their products, a group of Ugandans came up with the MyLike app to strengthen businesses' activities amid this COVID situation. According to the World Bank, Uganda's real GDP growth in 2020 was predicted to hover below 2% compared with almost 5.6% in 2019 due to COVID-19. For instance, it has worked with, if you look at as part of its response to the pandemic's economic fallout, the Ugandan government is at the forefront of promoting e-commerce and digital solutions for faster recovery from the crisis. And we do follow up on that situation. And what are you waiting for? If you're there, get yourself these Ugandan apps. It may not be the MyLike app, maybe Ugandan apps. Get them, download them, use them, promote your businesses with these apps. Be Ugandan, be proud of your country, because we are part of the journey of promoting our country, Uganda, as well. Away from that, let's move on to the next one. The real estate sector has been acknowledged as an excellent industry within the East African region because of its massive growth prospects. If you're planning to carry on with investment in Africa, Uganda's real estate is one of those safe investment opportunities you should consider if you're a big businessman out there, because now you could see what it means of situations. So, which means the importance of the real estate sector has actually been greatly important. If you're planning to invest in East Africa, Uganda's real estate is one of the promising sectors that one should actually venture into, and you should go for it. Running Uganda real estate development business may, however, become difficult at some point in time, especially if your planning is lacking. Dr. Sudhir Ruparelia, a successful businessman, as such, he's actually also dealing in real estate management. He made the remarks during the edition of the eBombaya Business Summit at the Uganda Revenue Authority head offices. More of this story.
The influx of big, beautiful houses, medium and small, all indicate that Ugandans are prone to investing in real estate. By observation, the commonest form of investment in real estate by a layman is in rentals, usually single and double rooms. Running Uganda real estate development business may, however, become difficult at a time, especially if your planning is lacking. During the eBombaya Business Summit, Sudhir Ruparelia, a founder of Ruparelia Group, emphasized a comprehensive planning before investing in real estate.
Wherever you do, if you plan it right, and the most important thing in any of this investment, your first thing the Judy has missed out is called location, location, location. And that, if you go to any estate agent, it's the first thing they'll tell you. Investment in real estate, again, is location, location, location. Plan your location right. If it's for retail, it must be in the right location. If it's for arcades, it's in the right location. For office block, is the right location. For industrial warehousing and industrial park, is right location. Low-cost housing, create a community with schools and things like that.
Yes, planning is critical, and it has an impact on the price of land, number one, before you buy it, and I'll approach that from a different perspective. If a piece of land does not have development approval or planning approval, then it will be, you can acquire it slightly cheaper than one that has. Okay? Buying a plot of land that has planning approval on it for a specified user type, okay, adds value onto that piece of land, because what it means is, as a developer, you can just come, buy the title or buy the land, the interest in the property, and you proceed to develop immediately. You'll have done away with that, part of the pre-purchase stage where you have to go and find out what can I build, what can I not build. It will be very clear if you have planning permission on that. On the other hand, land which is unplanned is mainly within high density population areas, which is the urban areas, and it tends to be extremely expensive.
Ideally, most people believe that you do not need to go to school to become a real estate developer. Acquisition of knowledge and basics for the business is paramount. Many developers come from various education backgrounds, but still meet the required skills. It could be through individuals or experts and valuation firms, but you need to get as much knowledge as possible because the business is complex. Besides, it requires one to exercise patience, do research, and do the searches to get a true ownership of the land before starting the business.
When you're buying a low-cost housing or an apartment in a condominium, I think as part of your agreement, you must ask a landlord to give you a copy of the planning permission he applied for, and then also planning as built. You also need a copy of the NEMA certificate to make sure that the property is built it legally. Then after that, you also need what you call occupation certificate, meaning that when you build your property and you're compliant to all the laws of building, the local authority will give you occupation permit. And after that, you also must get a certificate from the fire. There's a firefighting thing we have to get a certificate from, and there's also for the lift to be certified that it is in working order. So when you're buying a property, make sure if the building you bought is properly built, then you should have all these things available to you as your right as a tenant.
In the city. But Uganda is migrating, the rural to urban migration, 5.7% per annum. That is how quickly or how rapidly urban cities are growing. Okay? So whether we like it or not, if we don't plan for these areas, then the slums are going to grow, and the urbanization rates are going to increase every year. The slum dwellings are going to increase if we don't plan for them. Because remember, who's migrating?
At the same summit, Kampala Arcades Advocacy Forum spokesperson Kwebiham Zamir lashed out at policymakers for imposing 18% VAT burden to landlords at the time when the economy is not doing well. He described this act as double taxation.
Of whereby 18% has been imposed on landlord owners, more so the arcade owners. We feel to us it is injustice, that it may not really work, for one reason, that right now bringing such a situation in a COVID-19 lockdown that brought business down and having an economic slump right now, and then you impose 18% on the landlords. Absolutely, the landlord does not pick money elsewhere apart from the traders, the tenants themselves. So we as the tenants, we are subjected obviously to rental income tax, which is subjected to the landlord, and he passes it to the traders. So 18% imposed as VAT, still it's us to pay. So therefore, what we are heading for is unplanned, kind of economic approach that is not likely to bring any good, situation in the business sector.
Value added tax. So when you have a business, you produce, say, a bottle of water, or you let your property, the value that you add to that property to make it rentable is what is taxed. Now, it is a tax you pay on a sale or a payment, but also as a trader, it's a tax you pass on to the consumer, such that at the end of the day, the tax paid by the consumer is each of the persons in the chain pays their VAT bit. So the business owner will have VAT incurred from the landlord, but it will become part of the business that when he sells, the VAT he paid to the landlord is recoverable once he declares his sale. So it only affects you, like I said before, if you're not registered for.
Policymakers, they should be reasonable enough when they are thinking of taxes. They should probably look into the economy as it stands right now. The issue of sitting somewhere and probably increasing their own taxes, their own pays and all that. They don't really feel the pinch of these taxes that we are paying as taxpayers. They are so much given leverages and a lot of subsidies, a lot of financial kind of reliefs when actually they are getting a lot of money. So an MP would increase his earnings in relation to the taxes that is being collected. So therefore, I always tell people that policymakers, as being politicians and all that, for them they are enjoying a good atmosphere of good financial liberalization. But when it comes to us, we the taxpayers, they don't mind, because it's so funny in a situation whereby the economy is down, then an MP is demanding for an increment, then probably is also going to look at funny ventures of taxing us. Those are the things we are saying now. 18% is brought on rent, on rent, when actually rent is paying 30% rental income tax. Now, that's the funny part of it. In fact, when I look at even rent itself, for example, if you're in Kampala, you pay what we call ground rent, you understand it, that's a local government tax. Again, you are paying 30% rental income tax. Again, you're bringing 18% VAT on the same, taxable venture.
The VAT Amendment Act of 2019 reintroduced VAT withholding, but at a reduced rate. Whereas the law took effect at a time no list was gazetted by the minister to identify who would be the designated agents. A designated withholding agent for VAT purpose is required to withhold and remit 6% of the taxable value on making payment for taxable supplies. The 6% VAT withheld shall be recognized as a payment in the subsequent VAT return of the taxpayer from which the tax is withheld.
The VAT Amendment Act of 2019 reintroduced VAT withholding, but a reduced rate, i.e. 18% of the taxable value to 6% of the taxable value. Whereas the law took effect at the time no list was gazetted by the minister to identify who would be the designated agents. A designated withholding agent for VAT purposes is required to withhold and remit 6% of the taxable value of making the payment. So if you look at what is still happening in the world of real estates greatly, most people are still being affected by what is happening across the country, and mainly the tenants, because it is tarnishing the image of the business in real estate. Reason being, the tenants are suffering more because the landlords would always have to add more of the price, or let's say the amount of to pay for the rent. Away from that, let's move on to the next story. The Bank of Uganda has licensed 5 more companies to conduct digital and electronic payments under the new National Payment Systems Law. The companies licensed include MicroPay Uganda, Mcash Uganda, and Wave Transfer, among others. Charity Mugumi at the Bank of Uganda Director Commission says that the 5 brings the number to 7 companies that have so far been licensed under the National Payments Systems Act of 2020. More of the details.
The 5 joined MTN and Airtel were issued with payment systems operators separately, including payment service provider licenses in May. The National Payment Act, implemented under the National Payment Systems Regulation, seeks to streamline operations of electronic operators. Charity Mugumya, the Bank of Uganda Director Communications, says the 5 brings the number to 7 of companies that have so far been licensed under the National Payment Systems Act. She also says that the total number of companies licensed are 7 in number and 6 others waiting to go through the evaluation process. The National Payment Systems Act, which seeks to drive growth of e-payments and the cashless economy agenda, effectively has made it mandatory for all payment service providers to acquire new licenses. The licenses provides an opportunity to innovate and create new products that are responsive to the needs of the market. The financial technology space has been going through a lot of innovations, introducing products that are previously fallen under no particular regulation. Mobile money being inclusive, which had previously been regulated under Uganda Communications Commission, but its regulation has since been shifted to Bank of Uganda under the National Payment Systems Act.
Okay. Charity Mugumya, who is the Bank of Uganda Director Communications, says that if you're to look at the 5 other companies, if you have a look at this, it brings the number to 7 of the companies. If you get the 5 that have been added, to actually add on to MTN Uganda and Airtel Uganda as among that have been so far licensed under the National Payment Systems Act. She also says that the number of the companies licensed are 7 in number and 6 others are waiting to go through the evaluation process to make sure that they are also licensed and regulated. The National Payment Systems Act, which seeks to drive growth of e-payments and the cashless economy agenda effectively, has made it mandatory for all payment service providers to acquire new licenses. Now, the license provides an opportunity to innovate and create new products that are responsive to the needs of the online market or the e-commerce sector of Uganda. Let's move on to the next one. Government is said to conduct a budget review for the second quarter of the 2021-2022 financial year, and it is intended to shifting funds to priority sectors of the economy. 5.8 trillion is set to be released as a result of the process, says the Ministry of Finance Permanent Secretary and the Secretary to the Treasury, Ramadan Gobi. More of this story.
Ramadan Gobi, the Ministry of Finance Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, says that the review for the 2021-2022 second quarter has prioritized health and social protection, agriculture and industry, governance, Uganda Revenue Authority, judiciary and legislation. He says that out of the total release, 294.69 billion will go to health institutions and social protection, with 120.73 billion going to national medical stores to procure essential medicines, while 42.45 billion will go to support ministries of health, gender, labor and social development. About 32.73 billion has been released to support activities under SAGE, while 34.8 billion will go to referral hospitals. Under infrastructure, key releases have been made to Uganda National Roads Authority, 303 billion, while Ministry of Energy received 68.81 billion. About 43 billion will, during the period, be used to support activities of Ministry of Works, while 170 billion will go to Ministry of Water and Environment to cater for accumulated certificates. Gobi says government has put a lot of attention to health to ensure that the Ministry of Health procures vaccines to vaccinate a large percentage of the population as government prepares to fully reopen the economy. Ramadan Gobi has also noted that government will prioritize automation and digitization of operations to improve efficiency, and which continues to affect development programs and budget performance.
Gobi says government has a lot of attention on health to ensure that the Ministry of Health procures vaccines to vaccinate a large number of percentage of the population as government prepares the full reopening of the economy. Gobi also noted that government will prioritize automation and digitization of operations to improve efficiency, which continues to affect development programs and the budget performance in Uganda today. Let's head to the international scene and check out what is happening from the world of business. We kick-started from the United Kingdom, as the Bank of England's new chief economist has warned that the UK inflation is likely to hit or surpass 5% by earlier this year. Hao Peel told the Financial Times that the bank would have a live decision to make at its next interest rate setting meeting on 4th November this year. More of the details.
The Bank of England's new chief economist has warned that the UK inflation is likely to hit or surpass 5% by early next year. It follows recent comments from Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey, who said it will have to act on inflation. Hugh Peel told the Financial that the bank would have a live decision to make its next interest rate setting meeting on 4th November. The UK interest rate has been at a historical low of 0.1% since March 2020. Recent data showed that inflation growth slowed to 3.1% in the year to September. However, it is expected to increase because of rising energy costs, higher wages to fill record vacancy number, and supply chain disruption. Peel, who succeeded the Bank of England's former chief economist Andy Halden last month, said he will not be shocked to see the inflation reach 5% or above in the coming months. He told the Financial Times that's a very uncomfortable place for a central bank with an inflation target of 2% to be.
Mr. Peel, who succeeded the Bank of England's former chief economist Andy Halden last month, said he will not be shocked to see inflation reach 5% or above that percentage in the upcoming month, because according to the projection, that is where the United Kingdom's financial status is heading, or the English economy is heading. He told the Financial Times that it's a very uncomfortable place for a central bank with an inflation target of 2% to be in a situation of hitting 5% to more than that. Coming back to Africa, let's check out what is happening in Nigeria. Nigeria revenue underperformance pose uncertainties to the 2022 budget deficit financing. There are ominous uncertainties ahead for Nigeria and its proposed 2022 fiscal spending plan of 16.39 trillion naira, a figure that is 12.5% higher than its current 2021 budget, with revenue sources remaining short as a result of the federal government's historical underperformance across different segments of its revenue chain. More of this story.
The country's historical revenue underperformance, which has taken legendary status in the last 6 years, has been well exhibited in various budget life cycles and has sometimes led to a crowding out effect with consequences for private sector actors and also in deficits that stem from the government's diminishing revenue accretion powers. Bismarck Rawani, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company Limited and one of many analysts who have looked at the numbers, said Nigeria's debt service is increasing and total productivity flat. The gap is widening as government revenue continues to fall short of total expenditure. The growing concerns over debt sustainability indicate Nigeria is quickly falling into a debt trap, but debt service will spike when artificially low interest rate policy is rejected and an increased domestic debt issues. More public liquidity becomes imminent. In a related development, the Debt Management Office's latest data released on the federal government's debt services brings further evidence that Nigeria's federal government domestic debt has become stable with a 3.2% year-on-year increase to 323 billion naira in the second quarter 2021. Thus, Nigeria's domestic debt stock rose 14% over the same period of 2021. But the weak point in the narrative of government's debt service and revenue generation hangs on the poor revenue collection of the Federation government, from which it is to service its debt.
Nigeria's domestic debt stock rose 14% over the same period of 2021, but the weak point in the narrative of government's debt service and revenue generation hangs on the poor revenue collection of the federal government, from which it is to service its debts. As Nigeria's revenue is actually facing a challenge. Ours, meanwhile, in the first quarter, did not hit its target, but they do expect to hit their target by the end of the financial year. That brings us to the end of our news hour. Coming up shortly is the topical discussion with Andrew Barigi. We are discussing real estate business. This is Man Man's Business.